Good morning, friends. This is Akshata here, and I got a very good response on my first Let Me Read to You series. And I want to thank a very close relative of ours, Pramod Dada. He actually called up and told me, Ki Akshata, this series is very nice. So, Pramod Dada, this is a big thank you to you. So today, I hope again all of you are going to be staying at home. I know you need to go out for some provisions, that's fine. But otherwise, just stay home and stay safe. So today I've chosen also some short stories to read for you all. So our first story is An Afternoon in the Park. There once was a little boy who wanted to meet God. He knew it was a long trip to where God lived. So he packed his suitcase with some snacks and he started his journey. When he had gone about 3 blocks, he met an old woman. She was sitting in the park, just staring at some pigeons. The boy sat down next to her and opened his suitcase. He was about to take a small sip from a small little soft drink that he had carried with him when he noticed that the old lady looked hungry. So he offered her some of his snacks. She gracefully accepted it and smiled at him. Her smile was so pretty that the boy wanted to see it again. So he offered her some more of his snacks. Once again she smiled at him. The boy was delighted. They sat there all afternoon, eating and smiling, but they never said a word. As it grew dark, the boy realized how tired he was, and he got up to leave. But before he had gone more than a few steps, he turned around, ran back to the old woman, and gave her a hug. She gave him her biggest smile ever. When the boy opened the door to his own house, a short time later, his mother was surprised by the look on his face. She asked him, "What did you do today that made you so happy?" He replied, "I had lunch with God." But before his mother could respond, he added, "You know what? She's got the most beautiful smile I've ever seen." Meanwhile, the old woman, also radiant with joy, returned to her home. Her son was stunned by the look of peace on her face, and he asked, "Mother, what did you do today that made you so happy?" She said, "I ate some lovely Twinkies in the park with God." But before her son responded, she added, "You know, he's much younger than I expected." So this story just tells us that we can we can brighten someone's day by just giving them a smile or just saying some kind words. Don't know how and what that person is going through, but just some kind words and a smile can really lift up anyone's spirit. So this story just tells us that. The next story is a very short story, and the name of the title is Two Nickels and Five Pennies. In the days when an ice cream sundae cost much less, a 10-year-old boy entered a coffee shop and sat at the table. A waitress put a glass of water in front of him. "How much is an ice cream sundae?" asked the boy. 50 cents, said the waitress. The little boy put his hand into his pocket and had pulled out some coins. "How much is a dish of plain ice cream?" he asked. 35 cents. Some people were now waiting for a table, and the waitress was a bit impatient. The little boy again counted his coins. "I'll have a plain ice cream, please," he said. So the waitress bought him the ice cream, put the bill on the table, and scuffered away. The boy finished the ice cream, paid the cashier, and went on his way. When the waitress came back, she began wiping down the table. And then She was surprised and swallowed hard at what she saw. There, neatly placed beside the empty dish, were 2 nickels and 5 pennies. Her tip. So even a little boy, he could have had a Sunday with using all of the 50 cents. But he was so gracious enough that he sacrificed his, joy of having an entire Sunday and settled for a plain ice cream, just that so he could give her a tip and make her happy too. So these are little stories on how we can spread happiness in little ways. And, maybe the people who are with us at home are getting a little frustrated from sitting at home all the time. So maybe we can pep up their mood, tell them, come on, let's play a game, or just sit and talk to them and chat with them and just make everyone's day a little brighter. Or if you know any relative who's again alone at home or some elderly person, just pick up the phone, call them up, just talk to them and just make them feel nice. Because everybody is, uh, people are getting a little frustrated sitting at home with nothing to do. They can't go out, they can't stick to their routine. So, if you can do something just to brighten up someone's day and make someone happy. Like yesterday, when I got a phone call from Pramod Dada to tell me that, yes, Akshata, the stories were very nice. I hope you continue doing the series. It really brightened up my day. So, it made me feel like, okay, I am, doing something right and people do like it. So I thought I will continue with this series. So thank you again, Pramod Dada. So the next story is a little lengthy, but it's a very beautiful story. And it's something that I always like to go back to whenever I open this book. So the name of, or the title rather, is Information Please. When I was a young lad, my family had one of the first telephones in our neighborhood. I remember well the polished oak case fastened to the wall on the lower stair landing. The shiny receiver hung on the side of the box. I even remember the number 105. I was too little to reach the telephone, but used to listen with fascination when my mother talked to it. Once she lifted me up to speak to my father, who was on a business trip. Magic! Then I discovered that somewhere inside that wonderful telephone lived an amazing person, and her name was Information Please. And there was nothing she did not know. My mother could ask her for anybody's number. When our clock racked down, she could ask for the time. That person in the telephone knew everything. My first personal experience with this genie in the receiver came one day while my mother was visiting a neighbor. Amusing myself at the tool bench in the basement, I had hurt my finger with the hammer. The pain was terrible, but there wasn't anything I could do. But there didn't seem to be much use crying because there was no one at home to offer me sympathy. I walked around the house, sucking my throbbing finger, finally arriving at the stairway. The telephone! Yes! Quickly I ran for the footstool in the parlor and dragged it to the landing. Climbing up, I unhooked the receiver and held it to my ear. Information, please, I said into the mouthpiece just above my head. A click or two, and a small, clear voice spoke into the ear. Information. I hurt my finger. I wailed into the phone. The tears came readily enough, now that I had an audience. Isn't your mother home? Came the question. Nobody's home but me, I blubbered. Are you bleeding? No, I replied. I hit it with the hammer and it hurts. Can you open your eyes box? Said the voice. I said I could. Then take a small piece of ice, wrap it into a kerchief or any napkin, and just keep it on your finger. And don't cry, you'll be all right. After that, I called Information Please for everything. I asked her for help with my geography, and she told me where Philadelphia was and the Orinoco, the romantic river I was going to explore when I grew up. She helped me with my arithmetic, and she also told me that a pet chipmunk I had caught him in the park just a few days before would love to eat nuts and fruit. And there was the time that our pet canary, Petey, died. I called information, please, and told her the sad story. She listened intently, then said the usual things grown up would say to soothe a child. But I was still unconsoled. Why was it that birds could sing so beautifully and bring us joy, only to end up as a heap of feathers with their feet up at the bottom of the cage? She must have sensed my deep concern, for then she quietly said, Paul, always remember that there are other worlds to sing in. Just hold on, the pages are a little bit stuck. Okay. Somehow I felt better. Another day I was at the telephone. Information, said the now familiar voice. How do you spell fix? I asked. Fix something? Fix. At that instant, my sister, who took unholy joy in scaring me, jumped out of the stairs at me with a yeah. I fell off the stool, pulling the entire receiver out of the box by its roots. We were both terrified. Information, please, was no longer there, and I was not at all sure that I hadn't hurt her when I pulled the receiver out. Minutes later, there was a man on the porch. I'm from the telephone company. I was working down the street, and the operator said there might be some trouble at this number. What happened? I told him. Well, we can fix that in a minute or two. He opened up the telephone box, exposing a maze of wires and coils, and fiddled for a while with the end of the receiver cord. Tightening things with a small screwdriver, he jiggled the hook up and down a few times, then spoke into the phone. Hi, this is Pete. Everything's under control at 105. The kid's sister scared him and he pulled the cord out of the box. He hung up, smiled, gave me a pat on the head, and walked out the door. All this took place in a small town in the Pacific Northwest. Then, when I was 9 years old, we moved across the country to Boston, and I missed my mentor acutely. Information, please, belonged in that old wooden box back home, and I somehow never thought of trying the tall, skinny new phone that sat on a small table in the hall. Yet, as I grew up into my teens, the memories of those childhood conversations never really left me. Often, whenever I was in doubt and perplexity, I would recall the serene sense of security I had when I knew that I could call information, please, and get the right answer. I appreciated how very patient, understanding, and kind she was to have wasted her time on a little boy. A few years later, on my way west to college, my plane put down in Seattle. I had about half an hour between plane connections, and I spent 15 minutes or so on the phone with my sister, who lived there now, happily mellowed by marriage and motherhood. Then, really without thinking what I was doing, I just dialed my hometown operator and said, information, please. Miraculously, I heard again the small, clear voice I knew so well. Information. I hadn't planned this, but I heard myself saying, could you please tell me how to spell the word fix? There was a long pause. Then came the softly spoken answer. I guess, said information, please, that your finger has healed by now. I laughed. So it's still really you. I wonder if you have any idea how much you meant to me during all that time. I wonder, she replied, if you knew how much you meant to me. I never had any children, and I used to look forward to your calls. Silly, wasn't it? It didn't really seem silly, but I didn't say so. Instead, I told her how often I had thought of her over the years, and I asked if I could call her again when I come back to visit my sister after the first semester was over. Please do. Just ask for Sally. Goodbye, Sally. It sounded strange for information police to have a name. If I run into any chipmunks, I'll tell them to eat fruits and nuts. Do that, she said. And I expect one of these days you'll be off to Orinoco. Well, goodbye. Just 3 months later, I was back down at Seattle Airport. A different voice answered, "Information," and I asked for Sally. "Are you a friend?" "Yes," I said, "an old friend." "Then I'm sorry to have to tell you. Sally had only been working part-time in the last few years because she was ill. She died 5 weeks ago." But before I could hang up, she said, "Wait a minute. Did you say your name was Villiard?" "Yes." "Well, Sally left a message for you. She wrote it down." "What was it?" I asked, almost knowing in advance what it would be. "Here it is, I'll tell you. Tell him I say that there are other worlds to sing in. He'll know what I meant." I thanked her and hung up. I did know what Sally meant. Well, friends, these are the short stories for today. I hope you liked them, and I will come up with some more stories tomorrow. Have a safe day, take care, keep yourself happy and occupied, and make your day and someone else's day brighter too. Thank you so much for listening. And do visit my channel also. Bye.